have more. Well, awesome. I'm glad to be with you guys today. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when clients say one thing but do another. I'm sure none of us here can relate to that, right? Totally new concept that somebody would say something and do something else. We've actually touched on this a little bit as you have asked questions, or we've run through scenarios, but today is the day I actually teach it. So you may recognize some of this if you've been on the extra help calls. And then what we're going to do is talk through different types of closes. So how do you close on a call, which will increase the likelihood of setting an appointment? And then we're going to finish out, depending on time, with some practice or masterminding. So today's call, sometimes we have a lot of extra time at the end. Sometimes we have a little bit of extra time. So we'll just see what we have, and then we're going to decide together how to use it. I typically either role play or we mastermind something. It just kind of depends on what you guys want. So let's go ahead and jump into today. Here are your disclaimers, as we always have. Follow the law. Don't call people who don't want to be called. Your best bet is to have people opt in for email, text, or phone calls. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So when a client does one thing but when a client says one thing but does another, this is the pattern to address it in a kind way. By the way, you could use this with your teenagers. You could use this with a coworker. You could use this with anyone. But let's talk through it real quick. So the first thing you want to do is say, you said you wanted motivation. And notice I'm putting it back on them, but in a kind way. So you said, I know that you said you wanted to downsize and be by the beach. It could be, I know that you said you wanted to buy a new home so you can adopt and grow your family. What is this assuming that you have, though? Motivation, right? So I just want to point that out. Obviously, it's in the slide, yet at the beginning of this class, I really harped on it's so important to get motivation first. Don't get it second. Don't get it at the end. Don't get it after you set the appointment. You got to get it first. And that's because it's your leverage to keep them engaged. And I don't mean that, to be very clear, I don't mean that in a manipulative way. When I say it's your leverage to keep them engaged, I'm not talking to trick them into doing something. That's not at all what I mean. What I mean is, if you are coaching them, we've talked a lot in this class about how you really are a buyer coach or a seller coach. If you are coaching them, you really need something to keep them engaged. It's like the carrot out in front of the bunny. Remember seeing that on cartoons and they're running towards the carrot? That's the thing that we use to keep them engaged. It's for their own good, right? Now, not everybody we talk to is going to want to move, but for the ones that do, it's my job to help make that happen. And if they are starting to disappear on me, I need to remind them of their motivation to keep them engaged. It's really a kindness. Remember, a lot of people get very overwhelmed in the moving process and they can disappear on you, and it doesn't actually represent what they want to be doing. Haven't all of us related to that at some point, where there's something that we want to do, but we're overwhelmed, we're tired, we had a bad day, and so now we're not showing up for that thing, right? That was me this morning with the gym. We had storms come through. I didn't sleep well last night. I didn't feel like going to the gym this morning. I went. Yay, I did go. But I had to remind myself of why I was going. I kind of had to self-coach. But even self-coaching myself, it was the motivation that got me out of bed. All right, so you said you wanted to downsize and be near the beach, whatever it is. I'm noticing, and then describe the behavior. And I want you to add a word in there. Describe the observed behavior. And actually, I'm going to put it in the slide right now. Describe the observed behavior. So add that in there. And what that's going to do, it's going to prevent you from assumption. And you have to be very careful. I would recommend pre-thinking about this before you call them. So if off on the side in your notes, you want to put pre-think what this would be, amazing. Because you want to word it very carefully. So it's not, I'm noticing you chose not to show up. Because I don't know. I can't observe their choices in their head, right? I can't observe what their brain is actually thinking. But what I could say is, I'm noticing we did not connect for our appointment. That is observable. right? It's just a fact. We did not connect. That's not, you chose not to connect or you ghosted me. It's just, we did not connect. You said you wanted to buy the bigger home so it can accommodate your growing family. And I'm noticing I haven't heard from you about what the lender said. That's observed behavior, right? So make sure you keep it observed. And then the last thing you want to do and smile as you do it is talk to me about what's going on there. And the smile in your voice, I know they can't see you, but they will hear that in your voice for sure. So you want to smile, and it creates a very open environment. I'm curious, who here is familiar with the DISC tool, DISC? If you're not, it's okay. Certainly not required. It looks like quite a few of you. DISC, just a quick overview. D is driver, and it's a fast-paced personality that's very results-oriented. You don't have to memorize or know any of this, just quick reference. I would be more influencing, so they tend to be the people that are people. They're very fast-moving. S, and this is the one we're going to talk about today, S is steady, and they don't like to rock the boat. They love people. They're a little slower paced. They don't want to rock the boat. They like to keep people happy around them. And C is compliant, which means they're very aware of making sure they're doing things the right way, and they're more task oriented. What do you think is the most common one? If you had to guess. So we have driver, influencing, steady, or compliant. S, I kind of gave it away when I said, we're going to talk about this one. S, yeah. S is actually the most common. I did not believe that at first because I hang out with a bunch of realtors all the time. And I think I know for me, I'm a 99% I and a 99% D. And then my S is down there and then C is nowhere to be found. Good luck. And so that tends to be just a lot of people in real estate. And so what's actually true though is S across the globe is the most common one. Why am I telling you all this? Sometimes people will no-show us because they don't want to rock the boat and tell us that they're just not interested. Or they don't want to rock the boat and tell us, I found out I'm not qualified for a loan. They don't want to hurt us. They don't want to rock the boat or upset us. And so what can happen a lot of times is they just disappear. They hide behind email, they hide behind text, and that is the most common personality. So in this pattern, what I'm doing is I'm creating a safe space and inviting them to talk to me. And it works. I've done this with clients, and I find there's usually one of two responses. Option number one is, I'm sorry. I just got startled. We're having wind and a huge limb just hit my house, I think. So I just saw a splintering of branches in front of my window. So we'll deal with that after the webinar. So you said you wanted, and then you go over the motivation. I'm noticing the described behavior. And when you say, talk to me about what's going on there, I'm creating that safe environment for them to open up and communicate with me. That's what I'm doing there. And what I find is there's usually one of two responses. Response number one is often something like, you're right, and I need to get it together. Some version of that. Kind of like, this is the wake up call and you're totally right. Let me get on that. I'm so sorry. The other thing that I usually see happen is they admit that something has changed or I wasn't actually interested. And that's okay. I just want the open communication, right? I don't want to keep pursuing this if they just genuinely aren't interested right now. And maybe I need to put them back on a follow-up plan of some sort. And so that's what I find usually happens. I don't see or hear people having a negative reaction to this conversation, but it is important in your delivery. So let me go over a few with you. So, hey, Bill, I know that we really talked about your desire to buy an investment property, and the goal of that is so you can retire early. That's your goal. I'm noticing I haven't heard from you on what you're qualified for. Talk to me about what's going on there. What do you guys think? Does that sound friendly? Mean? Friendly? A lot of you, okay. I got a lot of head nods on that. Yes, I'm checking the chat box. Yeah, it is direct and kind, right? Have you guys heard the phrasing, clarity is kindness? Clarity is kindness. I heard that and I love that. Clarity is kindness. And it just stuck in my head when you said it's direct, Patricia, is clarity is kindness. And that's usually said in the context of relationship. So have you ever wondered where you stand with someone? Clarity is kindness. Even if it's an unpleasant conversation, it is kind, right? And so that's how I think of this. So before we move on to talk about types of closes, any particular questions here?
So is
Yeah.
this something in a voicemail
You could,
or is
I
it
would
a
be,
conversation?
yeah, I would say either. I would say either. If it's a voicemail, it would be more like, hey, I'm so curious. I hope you're okay. Call me back and let me know what's going on, is probably how I would tweak that. Um, so that would be one adjustment there. The only thing I would say, and I've never heard this said in the real estate space, and I think I said this to this group a week or two ago. I just know it from when I was a college recruiter. We were trained that there are certain things to never leave in a voicemail. Medical status. Hey, how'd your surgery go? How's the baby? Or how's your pregnancy? Those are considered private things. I've never heard that trained in the real estate space. But I just know that. And I tend to be cautious about anything medical in a voicemail or just be smart. If somebody's going through a divorce, how's that rotten husband of yours? Just no. Okay, just you guys know. So Louise, I would just use a filter and you could generalize it if you had to. So, hey Louise, I know you were really excited about some real estate decisions. I haven't heard from you about the lender. I'd love to hear from you and make sure you're okay and just hear what's going on there. That's so general. And then if I'm with them in person or on the phone, then I would be a lot more specific. Yeah. Don't, yeah. Awesome. Okay, are there any other questions around that pattern? Anybody want to use this for your children? All right. Guys, can you give me one moment? Okay. I'm concerned about the roof and the storm, and I'm just going to tell you, I've never done this during a webinar, but I'm going to do it because I don't want water damage. I'm going to message my contractor really fast because he's around the corner. There we go. Okay. Putting the phone away. Thank you guys for understanding. Side note, I live in the area where Hurricane Helene is, and some branches twisted off above my roof, and I didn't know that. And we're having a windstorm, and they have fallen. And they also did this right before family reunion, and they poked holes in the roof, and I got water damage. And I thought the rest might come down today, and I think that's what's going on. So it sounds like a tree just hit my house, but I know it's probably one of those branches. So anyway, thanks for being understanding. I think in 10 years, it's the first time I've stopped a webinar to send a text. So, all right, let's keep going. All righty. So now let's talk about how to close the sale with class. So what do I mean by this? So what they say is when you close 13 times in one conversation, it increases the likelihood that they'll set an appointment with you. So let me give you a little context and then I'll explain what this means. Because I'll be honest, when I first heard that, I thought that sounded horrible, if I can say that. Because my brain heard that as, hey, Bill, when will you meet with me? Do you want to meet with me? Hey, are you ready to meet? And so when I heard close 13 times on the call, I cringed because I just thought that sounds so salesy, and I don't want to do that. And thankfully, I've learned it's actually a very different approach. And there's a lot of ways you can do it that doesn't even really sound like a close. It's just an easy way to bring it up. And I'll teach you how to do that. One thing I want to comment on is if I'm coaching someone individually and they're really struggling to set appointments, I have two go-tos. And I've mentioned them before. I'm going to bring them up again because it's about today's training. The first go-to is to get a whiteboard or a printer paper, whatever it is, and do a countdown to what your goals are. So in this example, someone might have a goal to set 10 appointments a week. Maybe they're an inside sales agent. And what you would do is every time you set an appointment, I would put the last name of the person over the number and essentially cross that number out. So in this example, I would know I've set 2 out of my 10 for the week, and that was Smith and Zeller, because those are the names I wrote. That lets me know I already counted them. Okay. So this is trick number 1. So I have had people struggling to hit goal. They'll do a visual, and the next coaching call, they'll be amazed. I broke through the ceiling that I haven't passed before. I did it. So it's a little shocking. I had someone do this recently. She's an agent and was struggling to get above 5 set a week, which is actually very good for an agent. But her particular goal was 8, and she just couldn't get past it. So she did a countdown of 8. The next time I talked to her, guess how many she had set? 8. 8. There was an inside sales agent I was coaching. She wanted to get to 12. Her consistent number was 10. She had never broken 10, but she would hit 10 all the time. But she couldn't get to 11. She couldn't get 12. And for her income goal, her goal was she had to hit 12. And she's very good with her dialogues. She's been in the industry for a long time, had a great pipeline, and we just couldn't get past 10. And she's been at ISA now, gosh, I want to say over 10 years. I've known her since I got in the industry, and she's still in the same role as at ISA and loving it. Well, I had her do this because I had heard that this worked. So I said, do a countdown, and hers was 12 on down. Guess how many she set by the next time I talked to her? 15. And I asked her because I want to learn from people like this. I said, well, what did you do? Obviously, great job, but what did you do differently this time so that I can learn for other clients? And she was like, Anna, all I did was the countdown. That was literally all that I did. So I see a question in the box. Is it a count down? Yes. Versus a count up? Because you're looking at how many are left. How many are left? And I don't recommend doing more than a week at a time. There's a lot of psychology to this that if we have time at the end, I can get into if you want. But let me give you an example. When I was an inside sales agent, the idea of 10 set a week felt doable. But if you talk to me about 40 a month, that was very overwhelming. That's still 10 a week. But 40 a month, my brain is just struggling with that. And so the psychology there, and to be honest, I don't remember all the reasons. At one point, somebody explained them to me, but I remember it sticking in my brain. Don't do more than a week at a time with your countdown. Okay. Now, if you want to have in your office a board that tracks the whole month or something, that's fine. But if you're working on, I need to hit a certain number and I want to help myself do that more easily, do a week at a time right in front of you. Okay. And that does really help. So that's trick number 1. So I started this by saying, if I have a client who's behind goal and we're struggling to hit the goal, the first go-to is a countdown. Okay. The second go-to is what we're learning today. The second go-to is to track how many times they're closing on a call and don't stop until they get at least 7. The goal is really 13, but 7 is like a good starting point. Because to go from 0 to 13 is a lot. So that's like your first stair step is get to 7. And even at 7, oftentimes the next appointment, they'll report back, yes, I'm setting the appointments I need now because they were tracking. So would you like to know how to close 7 to 13 times on a call, but not be obnoxious? Because I see a lot of you expressing some concern. So we'll talk about that. The biggest thing to remember to help you not be obnoxious, put a star by this. It's your mindset. And let me explain that to you. If I am assuming, if my mindset is an assumption, this person is going to hire me. What are some sentences that I will naturally say? This person is definitely hiring me.
Start the sentence with when we.
Yeah, when we.
Yep. When we. Jot some of these down, by the way. I give you a lot of examples of closes, but the assumptive, there's one example and there's actually many I'll give you right now. So when we, you're going to love, when you, after we meet, or after we close. Those are the ones I'm thinking of now. Those are like the core of them, and you could probably think of more naturally in the conversation. But if I believe in my mind, this person is going to hire me, we are going to help them buy or sell this house, it's actually very easy at that point to start saying closes. Okay. Let me give you a couple topics to talk of, and I would still jot this in your margin somewhere or in the notes section of your workbook. Some things that you could talk about, and of course, filter to whatever is applicable for your team or for yourself as an individual. But I know on our team, we give away creme brulee cheesecakes at Thanksgiving. Y'all, these cheesecakes are next level. People, the social media blows up around them, and it's a whole freaking cheesecake. And individuals will message us that by the next morning it's gone and they had it for breakfast. It's insanely delicious. So I might be talking to Deb, and I might say, "Hey Deb, I can't wait to work with you." That's a close. And by the way, once you close with us, you're going to be part of our client network for life, and we give you creme brulee cheesecakes at Thanksgiving, and we have a big party. It's awesome. There were at least 3 closes in what I just said. Okay. Do you see how that can just come out easily? Right? So if you do client events, talk about them. If I'm talking to Susie and Susie's moving here from out of town and somehow expresses that she is, I'm coming and I don't happen to have any friends, and I'm excited to move, but I don't know how I'm going to make friends in my community. Well, I know our team, we have a Facebook group exclusive to our past clients and our vendors and our raving fans. And it's like a little social club that goes on. People post bookshelves for sale, or here's a yard sale going on, and we do client parties. So if I'm talking to Susie and I know that she's moving here from out of town and doesn't know anyone, then I might say, "Hey, Susie, you're going to love being part of our client network. We throw parties. We're going to help you get connected once you're here. We also have a Facebook group for you that you can jump into that's exclusive to our clients. And it's like a little networking group that'll help you get connected." See how that, like, I'm talking to her as if she's already closed with us and what she's going to get. That is a closing. That's closing right there. So do you see how you can do this and not be super obnoxious about it? It's actually very natural, but the key is this person's going to hire me. That's what has to be going on up here. This person is going to hire me. The example I'll give you, and I'm not saying that you need to be gluten-free, but the example I'll give you is if you're gluten-free, that eliminates making a lot of lower level decisions, right? I've made a high level decision. I actually haven't, I eat gluten, but if you made a high level decision that I'm not eating gluten, which means I don't need to make a lot of low level decisions because that one decision is an umbrella that takes care of a lot of smaller ones, right? So if I go to Panera Bread, I might know I'm not going to order I don't even have to think about it because I already made the one decision that I'm not going to eat gluten. Well, that would be the example I give you of closing. So if I'm assuming that they're hiring me, it's just going to make all the little decisions easy to say things like, when we meet, you're going to love our marketing team, when you come to the office, or I can't wait to introduce you to our listing manager, things like that. Got it? Okay. And I will give you, there's a lot of different types of closes, but that's the key factor right there. And so that's why I say the assumptive close. It doesn't only help your mindset, it helps you with the number of closes naturally anyway. Okay. Are we good on this slide? Did you get it all written down? Okay. So here's a couple different examples. By the way, I'll put it back up, don't worry. You do not need to know all of these. I'm never going to quiz you on what's a hard close, what's a soft close. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 slides full of different types of closes. And some of them you're going to be like, I love how that sounds. And some of them you're going to be like, I would never say that. And I know from teaching this, some of you will love ones that others of you don't love. And that's the beauty of we all have our own personality and our own style. So everything I'm about to show you works and it's proven. I pulled this actually from the Ignite class that some of you may have taken at your local market center. And the idea here is pick 2 or 3. Just pick 2 or 3 that you really like. And that's probably about all that you need. So we have the hard close. Let's meet. It's just very direct. Let's meet. Can you see though how there's some assumption in there? Now there is one actually called the assumptive close. Again, no one's ever going to quiz you on this, but I just want to point out that if I'm saying let's meet, I must be assuming that you want to, if I'm even saying that. So that's baked in there. The soft close. So this one, the idea of it is I've enjoyed talking with you today. When would you like to take the next step? So instead of me saying, here's what we need to do next, I might say, when would you like to take the next step? For that one, for the soft close, if you want to put in your margin, I tend to like this one for people that were old leads, that when we got on the phone, they were a little like, oh, I don't know. And throughout the conversation, they re-engaged interest because it's a soft landing. It's just emotionally, I know that when I called them, they were sitting in their couch watching TV with not even thinking about moving. And then through my conversation, they got reinterested and, yeah, maybe I should do it. So I know if I was like, okay, let's meet, we're going to do this, this, and this, that could be overwhelming to them. So for them, I like the soft close of, hey, it sounds like the next step would be to meet. I really enjoyed talking with you. When would you like to take the next step to make downsizing happen for yourself? And then I just want to see what they have to say. That also helps me gauge their level of interest. So that one. Okay, the trial close. I think you would agree. And if you want to circle, I think you would agree. That's kind of like the core of the trial close. I think you would agree that meeting would be our next step. Or I think you would agree that talking to a lender makes sense. Can you again see, though, how there's a little bit of assumption in that one? So again, if you're assuming that this person's going to work with you, a lot of these are just going to be easier to say. Here's the one that's actually technically called the assumptive close. It sounds like the next step is to meet with me, or it sounds like the next step is to meet with Louise. I have this time or that time available. Which one will you commit to? So again, that one is very directly, it sounds like the next step is, that's kind of like the core of that one. Sounds like the next step is. Again, I'm assuming they're going to say yes. Alternative choice close. What works better for you, early or late afternoon? And you saw that I taught this actually when we talked about how to set appointments that show up. Remember we said the funnel idea of if you can't nail them down, give them choices and kind of get them to kind of walk into a time. So what works better for you, early afternoon or late afternoon? Late afternoon. Okay. Would you like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock? That's considered alternative choice. The tie down close. For this one, if you want to highlight or circle, the key here is, wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense? So that we can help you get XYZ. So wouldn't it make sense to meet with me so I can help you get whatever the motivation is? So again, you got to have that motivation. The take back close. This is another one of my faves. So my personal fave is the assumptive close, if you can't tell. And then the take back close. If you want to put in your margin, you can use this wherever you want. I like to use it if I'm talking to expireds or for sale by owners or someone really skeptical. That's kind of like the big idea. Is there a skeptical person? And I like it because I'm pointing out, to be honest, I'm not sure if I can help you out or not, but it would be my honor to figure it out. And the way I do that with expireds, which Louise, by the way, I saw your note that you had a great expired session earlier. So maybe at the end you can tell us about that. Great job. We talked about that on our extra help call yesterday. So make sure you come to those. But I find with expireds or for sale by owners or that skeptical person, they value it when I say, hey, you know what, Kelly, I would love to help you. I know how to sell houses. What I'm not sure about is if I can get the number you want in today's market, that would make you happy. But I'd love to figure it out. And by the way, I won't list your house if I don't think I can make you happy at the end. I'll just tell you. So that I'm adding to what's here. And this is recorded, or you could jot down the gist of that. But again, it's that idea of I want to help you. I know that I can help. I'm not sure if I can get the number you want, but I'd love to find out, and I'll be honest with you about it. Expireds love that because they just had an agent that let them down. And I just find they respond very well when I'm like, I'll be honest with you, and if that means that I don't list your house, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I want you to be happy. And I'll just be very direct with you about it. Okay, the indirect close. Would it be okay for me to set a time for you to talk with so-and-so? This one I kind of have an aversion to, but it's proven to work. My personality kind of shies away from it because I think it could sound potentially like you're not confident. So I think how you say this matters. So if I were to say this one, I would say it with a lot of confidence. And I would probably say this to someone who's very, very on the fence, and maybe I want them to talk to a lender. So I might say, hey, Helly, would it be okay for me to set a time for you to talk with a lender so that we can help you figure out how to downsize so you can travel? And it would just be a very soft, indirect close. Okay. And again, I wouldn't normally use that one, but I think there are moments in time that you could, but say it with confidence. Generally speaking, when it comes to closing, what I have found the most success with is the mindset of I'm the best person to help them and they're going to hire me. So then it's just easy to say when we meet, when we do this, when we do that. And it just is easy to close that way. And what I find is if you want to jot this down as an idea, and the first thing, because I'm about to recommend recording some calls, it is your responsibility to make sure you do that legally where you live. Every state and location, I know some of you are out of the states, so wherever you live, make sure you know the law around recording calls. And that if you choose to record calls, you do that in a legally safe way. Sometimes you have to let them know that you're doing it and just figure out what that is. The other option is you could just record yourself practicing. You could do that. So what I find is if someone is new to this and they're trying to track how many times they're closing on a call, it can be distracting because they're trying to do little tick marks on their sheet. And sometimes they're like, because I'm trying to track, I got distracted from the actual conversation. So what I found worked well for this is to record a call or record yourself practicing. That would be fine. And then listen back. And on the listen back, track how many times you closed. And what I typically find, if you want to jot this down, and this is just from working with clients over the years, this is no scientific data. This just seems to be what's normal. Week 1, they close about 3 times per call. By week 2, they're getting up closer to 5. And by week 3, they're 7 or more, generally speaking. And I say that to you to give yourself grace that you may not be perfect at this right out of the gate. You might, and that's typical. So again, record yourself, however you can do that legally safe. If it needs to be practiced, that's fine. And then listen back to the call. And as you're listening, every time you hear yourself saying, when we meet, or you're going to love this, or would you like to get together, or what works best for you, do a little tick mark and start being aware of how often you're doing it. Just the awareness will raise the likelihood you're doing it on a call. And Susie, the goal is somewhere between 7 and 13 or more. And I say that in case you're wondering, some data says 7 closes per call and some data says 13. So I would say 7 to 13 or more. In my experience working with clients, when they start hitting 7 regularly, that's when their performance tends to go up. But it's not that hard. When you have the assumptive mindset. So, hey, Susie, I can't wait to meet with you. I think you're really going to love our marketing plan based off what you said. And once we meet and agree to work together, we'll get the paperwork signed to take the next step. That was 5 closes. I was counting as I did it. Did it sound like I was closing 5 times? Yeah. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind. And what I did there, I don't remember everything I just said actually, but it was when we meet, you're going to love our marketing plan. I talked about then we're going to sign paperwork to get started on the next step. That was 4 of the ones. There's one I'm missing, but I know I counted 5 as I did it. Okay. Any questions on the closes specifically? I want you to take a moment. Oh, Louise, I'll come to you in just a second. Take a moment and I want you to look through the list and pick your top 2 or 3 go-tos. And honestly, I wouldn't worry about the rest. There are some on there that I just personally would never say because it doesn't fit my personality, but it might be perfect for you. And what I love about this is they're all proven to work. So it's okay if you choose, Kelly chooses different ones than Bill. As long as they're proven to work, it doesn't matter. Oh, was that your question, Louise, about future pacing? No, when I think future pacing is more telling them how they might feel. So future pacing would be more like, maybe we just set an appointment. I might say, hey, Louise, it's very normal after we hang up that you're going to have questions pop up. Just jot them down. And you might even get a little nervous. That's normal. That's called future pacing. Telling them how they might feel. If you just flew overnight, I might say, you're probably going to be tired today. That's future pacing. It's just getting ahead of how they might feel to stay in front of it and let them know it's normal, right? One of the best things a coach ever said to me, I was about to embark on something that was scary to me, and I hired a coach to help me do it. And he looked at me, and it helped that he was a Navy SEAL. He was a retired Navy SEAL, so he was very authoritative. And he just looked at me and he said, Anna, what to you is overwhelming, to me is just another day at work. I was like, that's beautiful. And I stole it and used it in real estate. So if you want to steal that, go ahead. What to you is overwhelming, to me is just another day at work. And then he went on to say, I do this all the time. I don't remember his exact wording from that point, but he essentially was saying, this is my one thing. This is the thing I know very, very well. So I know that it's possible. You just need to follow my lead. And it was very calming to me. And he let me know it's normal to be nervous. It's normal. So that was future pacing. He's future pacing me. So what that did was when I later was by myself and feeling nervous and can I do this? I heard that in my head. It's normal to be overwhelmed. What to you is overwhelming, to me is just another day at work. Just follow the plan. And it helped. Susie, what about when you say when we sign the paperwork, it's a close? Future pacing is more about how they might feel. Future pacing is more about feelings. When I was a college recruiter, I would say, look, you're excited today because you are very aware of your goal, but you will have a day in the semester that you just want to quit everything and walk out the door. What are you going to tell yourself when you're in that moment? I want you to write a letter to yourself. And then you're going to give it to me. And when you have that day that you want to walk out of class and never come back, call me. And I'm going to send you your letter. That was like classic future pacing. So I'm telling them how they'll feel. Yeah. When I was actively selling, I would tell people, because it is the truth. I would say, listen, Deb, when I was buying a house, it was like alter ego Anna. This side of me came out that I did not know was there. And it was because of stress. So if you feel that way, just know it's normal. I felt that way too, and I work in real estate. And they would kind of laugh. A lot of you just smiled at me. And that was what I was trying to do, is get them to kind of smile a little bit. But I was also letting them know it is normal. It is normal. And that is okay. All right. Good. Anybody want to share what are your top 3 choices that you picked?
Let's meet. And my go-to is what works better for you. 2 or
Yeah.
4 p.m., early afternoons or late evenings.
That's good. I like it. Anybody else? I like what you said, Louise. These are good to print and place on the wall in your lead gen areas. Yes. I think I've showed this to you guys, but I have a wall as well. See my wall? And I have phrases and questions up there that I like to use. And what I have found over time is when it's up there, I memorize it even without trying, just because it's in front of me. And then once I get it internalized, I'll erase it and put something new up there. So every few months, I erase the board and put something new up there. Good. Any other questions on that? Okay. All right. So now we can practice or whatever you guys want. We can practice. We could mastermind something, whatever would serve you best. So this is really up to you how you want to use the time. We have just a little extra. Normally we have about 10 minutes for questions, and today we have more like 15. So if you want to go, that's all the new content for today. If you want to get some of your time back and make calls or catch up with a client, feel free if you would like to practice. Patricia, I feel like you're having school over there. I think all the children just came home from school, is what I think. Okay. Who has a question or perhaps something you want to practice? And I'll put up here. Here's all the things that we've learned so far. If there's any of those in particular that you want to practice.
I'd like to practice my call opener.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and call? I'll turn my camera
Okay.
off so it feels more realistic and go for it.
Okay. My note. Oh, my notes from yesterday.
Can you find it?
Yeah, but okay. Hi, Anna. This is Louise Weiss with Keller Williams Realty. Thanks so much for taking my call today. The reason I'm calling is to see your house is off the market. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were originally listed, what made you want to do that?
Okay, good. That sounds good. And obviously they could give you any variety of answers, but your actual opener sounds awesome.
Thanks.
You know, we worked on that yesterday. I will say it sounds like you're reading it, and you probably are, and that's normal when it's new. So I would just practice that a lot off the phone so that when you're on the phone, it just flows and sounds natural.
I have this thing where I go through the script, I read it, I chant it, I write it like 10 times before I go into my read gen. So I'll do that tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. It is surprising how quickly you can get it in your head if you just focus for even 15 minutes. And then you do that every day and it really becomes internalized. Who was it? I think it was Deb yesterday. I think she hopped off. Somebody, and I think it was Deb, said that they've internalized this so much that when they were doing an education video for their audience, she found herself just saying some of the patterns from class. She said, what was it? Moving is a lot of hard work. And she threw that into a video. And so that's what happens when you work to internalize it. It does just start to come out. So whenever you listen to yourself, or when you're practicing, record yourself to see what you sound like. If it ever sounds like you're reading it, that's simply a sign of you just need to internalize it a bit more to make it sound natural. That's all. But yeah, Louise, your word structure was great. Good. Any other questions or anything else you want to role play here? Marissa, go ahead.
So right after I get off this call, I have an appointment to follow up with somebody, and it's somebody who I haven't talked to in the better part of a year. When I met him, he was at an open house. He was looking at the time. What I realize now is I had no idea what his motivation was. And so today my goal is to get his motivation. But in the few times I've spoken with him, I know he's an investor. I get like that nervous thing, like, ooh, he's an investor, from Pebble Beach. Whoa.
Ooh.
I know. So anyway, I'm going to call him. He's like, yeah, call me tomorrow this time. So I'm like, okay, great. I can do that. But I'm like thinking when I started out yesterday, I was like, hey, I know it's been a long, thanks so much for picking up. It's been a long time. And in that time, somehow or other, I've lost clarity on what your motivation is. And he said, oh, well, I'm getting my hair cut. Call me back the same time tomorrow. And so I'm like, okay. And now I'm like, what do I say today?
Oh, I think you say what you said yesterday. I think that sounded great. I think that sounded really good. Exactly what you just said sounded awesome to me. And so you could also say, but I don't think you need to change it. But just here's other options for people listening that want to learn. Sometimes if you've talked to someone and you realize, you know what, I never got their motivation because I just got the training. I wish I had had this training a month ago. I didn't know, and now I got to get it. How do I get their motivation? Um, you will rarely, if ever, have a negative reaction to saying to someone, you know, I was thinking about you, Marissa, and it kind of hit me. I've never asked you what makes this so important to you. What makes you want to move? And that just feels good. You know, I was thinking about you, and now you're asking them a personal question about their goals. Honestly, if someone got upset with that, they're probably not a very pleasant person, to be honest. So, Marissa, I think the way you opened that sounded great. And the fact he said, you know, I'm getting my hair cut, call me tomorrow, shows he's open. I would just go right back to where you left off and say the same thing again.
Okay. Because like normally my first thing is moving's a lot of work. Why put that on your radar? And I'm like, but wait, I already know he's not moving. And he knows
Yeah.
I need.
Well, and you could also say investing is a lot of work. Here's something I haven't taught in this class that's like a little ninja trick that I like. Sometimes if somebody has a goal, or maybe there's something obvious, like for example, I think investing in real estate is obviously a good choice. To me, that's like an obvious good choice. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll throw out the opposite as reasonable. So if you want to jot that down, throw out the opposite as reasonable. What do I mean by that? If someone wants to be an investor, I might say, you know, a lot of people don't want to be an investor. So I'm throwing out the opposite as a reasonable choice. What makes you want to be an investor? If I have someone who wants to flip a house, I might say, you know, a lot of people renovate a house and then keep it and rent it out. What makes you want to flip it and sell it versus keeping it as a rental? If they want to do a rental, you know, a lot of people like to buy a house and then flip it and sell it. What makes you want to keep it as a rental? And what I find is it's almost like the same idea of moving is a lot of hard work. It's the same idea of like, it's almost a pattern interrupt. They're not expecting a realtor to say, why invest or why they're just not expecting it. And I'm throwing out another alternative as being a reasonable option. And it causes them, not in a bad way, but like to defend their answer a little bit, right? Like a lot of people, I have a Mac. A lot of people buy a Windows-based system. What made you buy a Mac? And that'll cause me, and honestly, I don't really care, but I'll go into reasons why I like a Mac. So that could also help Marissa with an investor.
So when you said that, the first phrase that popped into mind is like, hey, a lot of investors are thrown in the towel at the prospect of finding a good deal in this market. What makes you hang in there?
I wouldn't do that because that you're making it more about the market.
Okay.
You want to make it more about their actual motivation. That's more about the market. So motivation, it's the opposite is reasonable about the market. There you're suggesting most people are giving up because it's hard, and that could actually be really discouraging. But if I'm saying some people buy a house and then they sell it versus keeping it as a rental, what has you interested in renting out property?
Got it.
See the difference? I'm glad you asked. That was a good clarifying question. Yeah. But Marissa, I want to encourage you. They're just a human. And I get it. I used to be very intimidated by investors. And I think I've shared this in here, but I had an investor call me from California. Have I told you all about the guy who wanted to buy 250 houses? Yeah. I was so intimidated by that guy. And when I left the team, in fact, years after I left the team, he was still buying houses. My agent friend Tim, he'd be like, that's a Stan house. And I'd be like, oh, I wish I was still getting commission on these. Because it was yeah. And he told me, I don't know why I like you, but I just do. And I had been doing the arrow thing, digging into his motivation, and it worked. So remember, he's just a human. The same methods work. Okay, D, I see D in the chat box talking about finding a practice partner, and it looks like you got hooked up. Somebody gave you their phone number, which is awesome. I also want to point out to you though, under additional resources, it says featured links, practice partner sign up. And what happens is you fill this out, and then I get notified that someone filled it out, and I'll share back with you the spreadsheet of everyone else who filled it out. And there is a decent collection of people on there. But it looks like Tara might have you covered. But just know there is a sheet in there if you need it. Good. What other questions, thoughts, snide remarks, encouragement? What else do you guys have? Okay. Well, we might just end a tad early. Give you some time back. That's like enough time to make a latte. You could brew some coffee. You could call a friend. Go get something done.
I thought we had a success story to hear.
Oh yeah, Louise, were you going to tell us about your expired calling?
Oh, thank you, Kelly. And thank you,
Yeah.
Anna. I had shared yesterday how I'm really rusty at the expired calls. I used to be pretty good at them, and I took a break, too long of a break, and now I'm rusty. But I got some motivation yesterday, and my mojo is coming back. I had a great expired
Okay.
session today. I made 19 contacts, and of
That's
those,
great.
yeah, I haven't converted them to an appointment yet.
Yeah.
I mean, of those, like 19 answered, but
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 of them I had conversations with.
That's excellent. And you know what's odd with expireds especially if they just expired today or yesterday, they
Mhm.
might be getting a lot of calls and some of them are not as open today because you're the 12th person. But if you call them Friday or even tomorrow, it's like a different person. When I called expireds, I would call, unless they said don't call me or something. But if they were just a little grumpy, I would call them a day or two later. It would be like a totally different personality picked up because most agents don't call beyond the first day or two. So if you just stay persistent, you'll be the one that they gravitate towards. Good. Awesome.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate being with you today. We will meet again, of course, next week. And then next week, we do not have an extra help call. So we're back to our normal schedule. So we meet twice a month for extra help. Next week is our off week for that, but we will have class. So I will see you then.
Good luck with your roof.
Thank you. Thank you. The roofers were already out today looking at the holes. And I said, there's one more up there that I kind of hope falls today in the wind, but not when it's raining. And I think it happened. So is that a good thing? I think so. I'd rather have it fall before they put on a new roof than after they put on a new roof. Let me just put it that way. But I just don't
Yeah,
want water damage. I don't.
seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck with that. Thanks,
Before you
everyone.
close, before you close, Susie, the 3 dots in the top, when you click those, you can save the chat.
Oh, yeah.
There you
What
go.
do you do? Copy that into like a document or something?
I don't know. It
Oh.
probably asks you where you want to place it. I just see save chat when I click the 3 dots.
I clicked it, but it didn't ask me anything else. So it's
Can I-
somewhere.
When I click on it, it says save chat. And then it says chat saved, show in Finder for mine. So it saved it to my actual computer.
Yeah.
I don't,
Okay.
I don't have the 3 dots. My thing is a Zoom workplace. I
That's
don't know
my
how my
point.
Zoom switched to instead of the regular Zoom, a Zoom workplace, and now I don't have the 3 dots. Is anybody
So
else
there-
on Zoom workplace?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom workplace, and the 3 dots used to be at the bottom. Now they're in the top right.
Above the
If you
chat.
guys know-
They're now above the chat.
Like,
Also, I think the recording, I might be wrong on this because I don't go back and watch the recording because I'm in every class, but I think it shows the chat dialogue as well in the recording.
Okay.
I found it. I found it.
Good. Hey, quick note too,
Thanks.
because we're coming towards the end, we're not there yet. We'll be done April 23rd. Just a quick heads up that you'll have 60 days after the very last class to catch up any recordings you want to watch, and then they archive it after 60 days. So it's a 6-month program with 8 months of access. So I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. It's plenty of time, plenty of time. But just know if there's something you want to rewatch, just make a note that you've got April, May, June till the end of June.
So when it's archived, it's not accessible anymore.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
All right, guys. I will see you next
Thank-
week. Enjoy your 4 extra minutes. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Anna.
Have a great
Bye.
week.